I too will be looking at notes because my memory is a little sketchy. But this is the book that I wrote. You all now have it in your hands. It took me years to write it. Not because that it was difficult to write, but because it was difficult to live. But I lived it. So, good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank you for being here. Words cannot tell you what it means to me that each one of you took time out of your evening, purchased the ticket, and was willing to come here and listen to my story. Whether you're family, whether you're a friend, someone that I already know, or someone that I don't know, or just someone who has supported me from the beginning, I truly appreciate each and every one of you. It really means a lot to me. Standing here tonight, sitting here, I thought that it would only be a dream one day. When I started writing Where the Truth Lies, I wasn't just writing a book. I was reliving some of the worst moments of my life. There were days that I had to stop writing because the memories became overwhelming. There were moments that I questioned whether I would even finish telling my story at all. But I realized something very important. Secrets have power until they're brought to the light. And we all know that everything in the dark comes to the light. For so many people, the truth stays buried because of fear, shame, guilt, or the belief that no one would understand what you're going through. I know that feeling very well. I lived it. Writing this book became more than telling my story. It became part of my healing. It was like a therapist that I didn't know I needed. My hope isn't that people simply read my words. My hope is that someone who has experienced pain, trauma, or any type of heartbreak in your life will realize that you're not alone. If only one person finishes this book believing that they have hope again, if only one person finds the courage to tell their own story, something they've been through, their own heartache, your story. If one person realizes that their past does not define their future, then every tear that I cried while writing these pages for me was worth it. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that healing isn't about pretending the past never happened. Healing begins when we're brave enough to face the truth, no matter how painful that truth may be. That's why this book is called Where the Truth Lies. I had to face my truth. Because sometimes the truth isn't easy to find. Sometimes it's hidden behind years of silence, fear, or hurt. But when we finally uncover it, that's where freedom really begins. I don't sit here before you as a perfect person. We've all seen my Facebook. Okay, I'm not perfect. But I stand here before you as someone who chose not to let the past write the ending of my story. Instead, I picked up the pen myself. And that's what I hope all of you here remember tonight. You're not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what you choose to become. Just like my story matters, so does yours. Your voice matters, the things that you've lived through, the accomplishments that you've made, all of you matter. And your life has purpose, just like mine did. So tonight, I'm going to share a piece of my heart with you because it meant a lot to me to write this book. And again, I thank you for being here. My hope is that as my readers, when you read my book, Where the Truth Lies, you don't just read my story. You take time to reflect on your own journey and your own life and discover the strength that's really inside each and every one of you, just like it was inside me. So again, I thank you for being here, for supporting my dream, and reminding me that the truth, no matter how difficult, has the power to heal. With each one of you, I was able to bring my truth. And that's very, very, very meaningful. I hope that God blesses each and every one of you, and I look forward to talking with you, signing your books when it's over, and also hearing your stories. I work here and I'm here all the time, and I love meeting the people that come in here. I love hearing your stories and your adventures and getting to know you as well. I want to get some food out and let all of us kind of mingle a little bit, get some food going on our tables, and then I have a lot more to say. So let's take some time, and they'll bring that out from the kitchen. We'll all get our food, and then we'll get this going further. Okay. Sheets of paper. A few years into my prison sentence, I made a decision I was going to tell my story. With nothing more than a pen and loose leaf paper, I began writing. Those handwritten pages became one of my most treasured possessions in prison. For nearly 6 years, they traveled with me from prison to prison, from cell to cell, everywhere I went. By then, I had written more than 200 pages. The edges of these pages were worn. The ink had faded in some places, but every page represented a piece of my life. A life that I was finally brave enough to put into words. Then one day there was a prison shakedown, and everything disappeared. No explanation from officers, no warning, years of my work gone in an instant. For a long time I wondered if I would have the strength to begin again. Starting over meant reliving some of the hardest moments of my life again. It would have been easier just to not do it, but I couldn't let my story end there. When I was released from prison, I picked up the pen again, and this time I made myself a promise. No one would ever take my story from me again. It took nearly a decade for me to write my memoir. And today, because of perseverance, faith, and second chances, each of you is now holding that story in your hands. I'd like to share a small part of it with you now. My book isn't perfect and it doesn't have page numbers. But if you go to chapter 1 and go to page 6, I'm going to read a little bit from there. Today's August 19th. For me, that means a lot. I'm going to read from the book now. August 19th, 1996, I'll never forget it. It's been etched into my brain like the memories of a firstborn child coming into the world. The kind of date that you just don't forget. The day I was in an elevator, handcuffed and shackled, being led like a dog by the sheriff's deputies, one on each side of me to the courtroom. My sentencing date. Some people have dates in their lives that will change the course of their lives forever. Graduating high school, marriage, going to prom, having your first baby, those important dates. The ones you don't forget and don't need a calendar to remind you of them. Standing there in the elevator, I looked up at one of the guards as we waited for our floor, and I realized that no one would be there to stand beside me in the courtroom as society threw me away. And it made me suddenly feel a little bit sad and a lot claustrophobic. Quietly, I wondered where my mother and grandmother were at that moment. I wondered were they thinking about me too. I could close my eyes and hear my Grandma Jean's voice telling me to stand up straight. I could feel her hand nudging the back of my head as we moved slowly up to the 3rd floor. I wish the elevator would have just kept going up, right up to the highest floor and out the big blue sky. Breathe. I kept reminding myself to breathe in and out. I would have rather died than stand there alone that day. Death wouldn't come for me just yet, though. I had already spent many nights in a jail cell begging it to. I stood alone in that courtroom to face my fate. Not a single family member showed up to stand beside me. That was August 19th, 1996. Something very significant about today, the day that I chose to be my day that I told my story in front of you all. For most people, it's just another day on the calendar. For me, it's a day that I'll never forget. For a long time, August 19th represented one of the darkest chapters of my life. It reminded me of loss, fear, uncertainty, and everything that had been taken from me in my life. But today, August 19th, 2026, I have taken that date back. Now, instead of August 19th representing defeat, it now represents perseverance. Instead of hopelessness, it represents hope. Today isn't just about where I've been, it's about how far I've come. At just 17 years old, in February of 1996, I was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Not just one count, but two. Just 6 months after my arrest, I was found guilty and sentenced to serve 30 years in prison in the Illinois Department of Corrections. In what felt like the blink of an eye, my entire future changed in so many ways. But I refused to let a sentence define my whole life. For the next 10 years, I fought for my freedom. I filed appeals that I knew wouldn't be heard, habeas corpuses that I knew would be denied, and post-convictions again and again and again. And nearly every single day, I wrote letters to the judge who had sentenced me, continuing to proclaim my innocence and begging him for my freedom. I used all of my stamps to write my judge. All of my letters to him went unanswered. Many people would have given up, but I knew I couldn't. Because if I stopped believing that there was hope, then I would have surrendered long before I ever got the chance to walk out of that prison. People assume prison taught me how to survive. It did. But it also taught me something much more important. It taught me in life to never give up. I learned a few things while I was in prison. I learned patience because everything involved waiting. I learned gratitude because freedom isn't something you truly appreciate until it's taken away. And I learned that even in the darkest places, you can still find hope if you refuse to let go of it. While I sat in that prison cell, I thought I was alone. I thought what happened to me was rare. I thought somehow I was an exception. But after my release, I learned something that broke my heart. I wasn't the exception. I was one of thousands. The National Registry of Exonerations has documented nearly 3,800 people in this country who were wrongfully convicted and later exonerated. More than 375 of those cases were overturned because DNA proved the truth. Think about that. Hundreds of people were told that they were guilty until science proved that they weren't. And together, those innocent men and women lost more than 27,000 years of freedom for crimes that they never committed in the United States. 27,000 years. Let that sink in for a minute. The reality is, those are only the cases that we know about. Experts estimate that somewhere between 1% and 6% of people in United States prisons may actually be innocent. If that estimate is even close, that means that tens of thousands of innocent people could be in prison right now while we're sitting here having this dinner. Waiting, hoping, and praying that someone just believes in them. Illinois, where I was in prison, has unfortunately become one of the leading states in the nation for wrongful convictions, with more than 650 exonerations. The state recognizes the damage that's been done. In Illinois, someone who has been wrongfully incarcerated can receive up to $50,000 for each year that they were imprisoned. On paper, that's meant to make their mistake right. In my case, the state of Illinois owes me approximately $650,000. Don't misunderstand me. I'm grateful for every opportunity I've been given since my release. But here's what I've learned. You can repay money, but you can't repay time. You can't buy back birthdays that you missed. You can't replace holidays with family. And you can't get back the funerals that you weren't allowed to attend. Are the memories that you never got a chance to make. There isn't a check big enough to repay an entire life that's been taken. Wrongful conviction doesn't just steal a person's freedom, it steals their time. And time is the one thing that no court, no government, and no amount of money can ever give back to anybody. When people hear the word prison, they often think the story's over. Prison's the end. That once you've been there, your future's been decided. But boy, doesn't history tell us a different story. Prison has held people who went on to become presidents, authors, musicians, business leaders, and voices that have changed the entire world. Because prison is a chapter. It doesn't have to be the entire book. Let's think about Nelson Mandela. Do you know his story? He spent 27 years in prison. After that amount of time in jail, most people would come out bitter, angry, lost. He came out determined to unite an entire nation and eventually became the president of South Africa. He came out determined and made a difference in the entire world after being in prison 27 years. Malcolm X. He entered prison as a young teenager with little direction. And while incarcerated, he educated himself, read constantly, and discovered his true purpose. Tim Allen. Before becoming one of America's best-known comedians and actors, he also served time in prison. After his release, he rebuilt his life and created a career that made millions of people laugh, probably some of you. Different people, different mistakes, and totally different circumstances. But they all prove the same thing. Your past doesn't have to dictate your future. I'd like to believe that my story belongs in that same conversation. Not because I'm famous, not because I led a movement that changed the world, but because I refuse to let prison have the final word in my story. I decided that my story would not end with a prison sentence, and that's why I'm here before you today. Not as an inmate number, not as a defendant on the stand, not as someone defined as the worst chapter of my life, but as an author, as a speaker, and a woman with true purpose. And someone who believes that every person deserves to be seen for who they can become, not just for where they've been. The most important chapter of your life is never the one behind you. It's the one you're writing right now. If there's one thing I hope you take with you when you leave here tonight, I hope it's this. Never let one chapter of your life become the title of your story. Every single one of us in this room has made mistakes. Every one of us has faced heartbreak, loss, disappointment, or moments that we surely wish we could erase. But those moments don't get the final say. You do. I lost years of my life. I lost precious time with the people that I love the most. I lost opportunities that I'll never get back, but I refuse to lose hope. And hope changed everything. So whether you're carrying regret, whether you're carrying something that might feel impossible, or whether you know someone who's struggling, don't give up on them. And don't ever give up on yourself. Because your greatest setback may become the very thing that prepares you for your greatest purpose. The reason I wrote Where the Truth Lies wasn't just to tell my story. It was to remind everyone that truth matters, hope matters, and every life has value. I thank you for believing in second chances, because you came here tonight and you gave me one. And I thank you for becoming a part of my story. If my story proves anything, it's this. You can lose years, but you don't have to lose your future. In each one of your gift bags, you'll find a small notebook and a pen. Can you guys go ahead and grab that for me now? Throughout tonight, you've heard pieces of my story. But before we leave, I want you to think about your own story, your own journey, your path in life, the things that you've been through, and the things that are important to you. I want you to open that little notebook to the very first page, and I want you to write one sentence, and nobody else ever has to read it. I want you to start your sentence with this. The next chapter of my life begins with, and I'll say it again. The next chapter of my life begins with. I don't want you to tear out the page. I don't want you to turn it into anybody here. It belongs to you. It's your story. Someday, I want you to find this little notebook again. Maybe a couple weeks from now, maybe a few days from now, maybe 6 months from now, maybe even 5 years from now. And when you do, I want you to remember that you wrote down a wish. It was the night you decided where your story is going next. Because you're all writing your story just like I did. I know that I've been talking for a while. I've had a few things to say. And I really want to know if you guys have any questions. You don't have to worry. I've been cross-examined a couple times. There's nothing off limits, and you can ask me anything. Does anybody have any questions?
Why are you such a rock star? Never mind. I don't want to. Okay. Off limits. But so how did you get arrested? Essentially.
So I have two defendants in my case. I was 17 at the time of the crime. They were 28 and 36. The 28-year-old was my mother's boyfriend. The 36-year-old was his brother. And the 36-year-old turned himself into the police. And when he did, they came and arrested me.
What kept you from staying the path and not taking the deals, scared that you'd go to prison?
Sorry?
So a lot of times when you go in front of a judge, they offer you a deal, try to get you to not take it to trial, and do some glamorous deal rather than doing like 25, 35 years. What gave you the strength to not take a deal and to keep your stance?
I did in fact take a deal. The state offered me 30 years in prison, or if I took it to trial, my attorney told me that I would probably get the death penalty. So when he gave me that option during a meeting, he said I had about a week to think about it and I needed to give him an answer. So I chose the 30 years. I pled guilty for 30 years.
Very unfair, very unfortunate.
How does it feel to come from where you came from, to go through all of that, and to be here today with all these people who care about hearing your story, your past, what you changed from that? How do you feel about being really well and sitting here today from all these people?
You know, it's a great feeling, but it also makes me sad because I know that so many people like me are still in prison, wrongfully convicted. And there's so many people that get out of prison that want to do well, and they don't have the support, and they don't have the opportunities, and they don't have it easy, and it's really hard. So it's a good feeling. but it also makes me think about the people that don't know
Another college.
how to get there.
So another college, not those men. Not the answer. That's the regulation.
Yeah, no matter what, I love you, girl. I love you.
I love you too, Kevin.
I love you, Jimmy.
So, do you think you would be where you are today if it wasn't for stuff you went through?
Absolutely not. I think that there's a reason for everything, and God's purpose in my life was to be in prison. So it was a part of my path that I had to endure and go through to get where I am today. A lot of the things that I endured and things that I went through in prison made me who I am, made me as strong as I am, as patient. So I think that it's all made me who I am.
So, I have two questions. One, what part of Illinois were you in? Is that where I was born and raised?
I was in Highland, Illinois.
Okay, sorry, I was thinking about it.
West,
My
baby.
second one, did you work for the full 30 years or were you able to get out there?
I didn't. I did win an appeal on my 8th year. When I won my appeal, the judge granted me a new trial. And in that moment, when I was remanded back to the court, we had the hearing, my attorney, I had a paid attorney at the time, he told me that they would give me a sentence reduction and I could go home or I could get a new trial. And at that point, after being in for so long, it had been 8 years, I accepted the time cut and agreed to go home. So the conviction stuck. I could have went back for a new trial. That could have lasted anywhere from 1 to 3 years. And who knows what the outcome could have been. And having already been sent to prison for that long for something that I didn't do, my faith in the justice system was very low. So I opted to just go home.
What's next for you?
You know, I wish I knew the answer.
I feel like you should start an advocacy group to help people that have been in your position, who have been scared into taking deals when they're innocent, and help them find a way to become part of society that's not outcasted.
Absolutely. I think that there's so many people going to jail, and there's so many people going to prison, and even people that get sentenced to probation and things like that. But the one thing that we don't focus on, even in prison, they focus on rehabilitation. They offer you school, they offer you rehab, they offer you these things. But the one thing that people don't have and that nobody's offering is that level of support. For me, I was very lucky. When I was in prison, a lot of people heard about my story. I had a lot of pen pals. I had a lot of people that were supporting me, that believed in my innocence, and that made it very easy for me when I got home from prison. Not necessarily easy, but easier. I had job opportunities. I had different, I had housing in a safe area. I had things like that. And the problem that I see today is that people don't have that. When you get out of prison, there's really no support system. And a lot of times, a lot of inmates are sent to these work release centers and these places that are literally right next to places that are selling drugs. So it's almost like it's a setup for them to be a revolving door. So there, I am very interested in getting involved in recidivism and things like that in the local juvenile detention centers and things in Nye County. And I went back and spoken into prisons where I've been and things like that. So that's always something that I want to do. But I think that I'm a business developer and that's my passion and what I'm good at it. So as far as financially, I'll keep pursuing things like that. But I will continue to try to tell my story and bring awareness to those that are still wrongfully convicted, and to the fact that more people that do want to change their life just need more support.
Amen.
I think the most healing part of writing my story for me is actually meeting the people that read it. Because I get such good feedback, and people come to me, you know, and they're like, oh, God, I've been through this, or I've been through that, and just seeing that you went through it too. You know, in my life, I was sex trafficked as a teenager, and I was molested by a family member. And so putting my story out there has led a lot of people to come to me in privacy, telling me that they had been through these things and they were finally able to figure out a way to talk about it. And for me, that's so important because I know that I too felt like that before. And I felt like I'm so ashamed of my past and I'm so ashamed of these things. But once I was able to just get it out there and tell the story, for me, the most healing part is connecting with other people, knowing that I'm not alone. You know, and that other people have went through these things and gotten through it and lived good lives and found happiness and peace. So for me, that's the best part.
It's almost like a better that you have somebody that you never really got pictures or
Yeah.
something often that's hard for that area to do that for people that really
Yeah. Yes. I was 17 and they tried me as an adult. I'm sorry? Yeah, well, they tried me as an adult, so even if someone would have spoken up, they couldn't have done anything to change that. But I didn't have a lot of family support when I was arrested. My mom, unfortunately, was struggling with alcohol and drug addiction herself. You know, and a lot of my family members were, so nobody ever showed up. Sorry? A lot of people have asked me that, and I came to Pahrump because my child's father got transferred from Kansas City to Las Vegas for his work. And I, at the time, was living near Chicago in Illinois, and our kids were traveling back and forth by plane, and it was a lot. So I decided to move to Vegas, and Vegas, I grew up in a really small town. Vegas is fun, you know, but it's not what I wanted in my backyard. So I like to be close enough to enjoy the noise, but far enough away not to hear it when I don't want to. So when I moved to Vegas, I started looking around at properties. And me and my child's father co-parent very well. We're not together, but we have 2 houses on one property, and that's what we were looking for. So we never wanted our children to have to choose who they wanted to spend the weekend with. Now they can see us both every day. So the only property that we could find that had 2 homes on it to do this co-parenting agreement was in Pahrump. And I came here and saw the views and the town, and I just knew that this is where I wanted to be. And I love it here. So as you all know, I have ventured off into doing a little bit of music. I have written songs that personally I've been through these things, or you know, a lot of times I write poetry and I turn that into songs. So I wanted to sing a couple songs here for you tonight. The first one that I'm going to do is called I Miss You, Grandma. And if anybody from my family could be here tonight, I would wish that it could be her. I love her and I miss her a lot. When I was in prison, she wrote me regularly. She was older, so she couldn't make it to visit. It was a long drive for her, you know, but she was the one that always told me never give up hope. You know, someday the door will open for you, and it did. And I just love her, you know, and I never will forget her. So I wrote this song for her.
Grandmother was the best.
Sorry.
The room was cold, a heart attack I was told. I gripped the handle on the door, slowly walked across the floor. I saw your face so tired, so pale. I reached for your hand, it was so frail. It was goodbye. I couldn't let you see me cry. I miss you, Grandma. Since you've been gone, life ain't been the same. We are cousins and don't even know their names. You were the glue, and who knew? I miss you, Grandma. I miss you, Grandma. Our words turn blue. Your great-grandkids miss you too. I'll never forget you, Grandma. I'll never forget you, Grandma. I use your recipes. I still have that old vintage cheese slicer thing. Boy, I sure wish you could hear me sing. I miss you, Grandma. Since you've been gone, life ain't been the same. We got cousins and don't even know their names. You were the glue, and who knew? I miss you, Grandma. I miss you, Grandma. Our words turn blue. Your great-grandkids miss you too. I'll never forget you, Grandma. I'll never forget you, Grandma. Every Sunday play, every story in the air. Keep your life alive like you're still here. I swear I feel you near. I miss you, Grandma. I miss you, Grandma. Our words turn blue. Your great-grandkids miss you too. I'll never forget you, Grandma. I'll never forget you, Grandma. Oh, I sure wish you could hear me sing. I sure wish you, Grandma. There's another song. You don't let that cloud your own confidence or your own love for yourself. You know, people will do that. There's haters, there's Karens, there's all this garbage. But you have to stay true to yourself, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to keep going for yourself. So I wrote this song during a time when I was being ridiculed, and it just reminded me of all the times that I was. even as a redheaded kid in high school. So this song is called Let 'Em. They're all gonna laugh at you. I was an awkward kid, freckle-faced and lanky. If there was a wrong side of the track, I always did find myself there, looking toward the other side, wishing I could take that fancy ride. I never did fit in, but I always stood out. I heard the laughter, I heard the doubt. They're all gonna laugh at you, but I still walk through. I heard the laughter, I heard the truth. Lunch race, I was in the toes, lunch tray cold, head down low. Every joke hit like a stone, still I learned to make it home. Mirror said I don't belong, but I kept my bones nice and strong. Every name they threw my way turned to fuel by the end of the day. I never did fit in, but I always stood out. I heard the laughter, I heard the doubt. They're all gonna laugh at you, but I still walk through. I heard the laughter, I heard the truth. Now I know what they can't see is the strength they built in me. What they meant to break into gave me so much more to do. They're all gonna laugh at you. They're gonna laugh at you. I heard the laughter, and you will too. Remember, they're all gonna laugh, but you're gonna walk right through. I heard the laughter, and you will too. They're all gonna laugh at you. But wait, you'll see, baby girl, they'll end up clapping for you. Keep dreaming, keep reaching. If they're laughing, let them. This last they say only the strong survive. Say it like a slogan. But what of all this muscle? Is just armor that's broken. I've been holding up the sky. White knuckles on the world. If strength is all I got left, why do I still feel so small? If strength is all I got left, does that make me strong? If I'm always on defense, am I doing it wrong? Is there more than staying tough? More than staying calm? If strength is all I got left, does that make me strong? I don't cry, that's the story they love. But these quiet 3 a.m.s keep holding out the light. Tell me where the finish line If I'm always on defense, am I doing it right?